Hello and welcome to Inside Marvel, ABC News Digital's discussion show of what's going on in Marvel Comics. We have a huge day today. We're talking about issues 6 and 7 of the Secret Empire arc. I'm your host, Walt Hickey. Today I'm joined by Mike Rothman from ABC News.
Oh, hello.
Marvel's Alana Smith.
Hello.
And out remotely, we've got Margaret Stoll. She's the writer behind Captain Marvel. How's it going?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we are going to dive right in here. We've got a huge set of issues. Last week, you can check it out on our feed, we looked at the preceding 5 issues of the Secret Empire arc. It's a huge issue where Captain America has seized control of the United States of America. He's assimilated under Hydra. Currently, the Avengers are posted up in Nevada or space or New York City, and they are just trying to survive at this point. And we have a really consequential book here. Rothman, you're laughing. It's a big one, isn't it?
There's just so much going on.
There's so much
going on. They're either here or there or there or there. Or, oh, yeah, they're also here.
It's really
they're
fun to write
marooned in New
recap
York.
pages for all that.
Alana, you've been working on this book.
Yes.
How's it been kind of keeping all these threads going?
It's hard. Like, I credit it mostly to Nick Spencer, who's we've kind of just let, like, he's better at keeping track of this stuff than we are, because we're also dealing with all the tie-ins and all the other everything that comes along with making this book go out, including, you know, getting the art and actually putting the book to print. So a lot of times we just kind of trust him to have his stuff in order, and he usually does. Every time I've tried to check him on something, he's like, no, actually, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Trust in Spencer.
You trying to trick him? A little bit?
No, not really.
I just got very happy for a second.
I've caught him a few times being like, oh, this didn't actually happen the way this character is saying. But for the most part, like if we're like, did you forget about that thread? He's like, nah, it's in the next issue. And we're like, oh, okay, got it.
It's a lot of juggling. So one thing I want to do now is we want to go through issue number 6. And the big event of this issue is that Captain America has found the secret base in Nevada. He has found all of the heroes that have kind of remained on Earth that aren't incarcerated in the Dark Force dimension of New York City and are not in space. And so this is everybody. Then you really have a real devastating moment. So issue starts out, we're in New York City. New York City is consumed by the Dark Force dimension. Basically the magic version of SantaCon. It's just demons everywhere in the streets. It's horrible. There's no good cabs anywhere. And essentially they are just holding on by the last thread, right? They are holding on. It is cloak and dagger, just keeping the lights on occasionally. But we see some opportunists. We see Kingpin, all right, a long-standing character, adversary of Daredevil, is really making hay in this kind of situation. Mike?
Yeah, he's playing the long game. So he's waiting to... He's trying to take care of the citizens that are there, but obviously not for altruistic means.
Yeah.
And it's pretty transparent that he's playing the long game and hopefully turn the tables on the Defenders and Daredevil and people like that down the road.
Yeah,
might I suggest Mayor Kingpin? Is that
I feel like the story has legs, no?
Well, I think you'll see a lot more Kingpin popping up post this that's very much tied into what we're building here. Like, that is going to have lasting ramifications. Like, he's not kidding when he says that people are going to think of him fondly when this is all over. So we'll see the consequences of that. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say where, but you can probably guess, considering where Kingpin usually shows up.
Well, I will vote for anyone who gives me food. So we have this very persistent arc, and again, Nick Spencer has said he's not trying to write a story about stories, which is we've been holding on to that since we had him on the second edition of this show. There's this whole second arc going on where we have. We've been calling him Dream Cap. We've been calling him Cap in the Woods. We don't really know what to call this fella, but there's a spectral version of Captain America who has been basically journeying through the history of this character. And he has been captured by Red Skull. He has been oddly tortured by Red Skull. He's been told by Red Skull that he is in hell itself. It's a very, very dark part of the issue.
Did Red Skull get that bat from Negan from Walking Dead?
I don't know. There's a lot of multiversal stuff going on in Marvel these days. So, again, you see these, like, arch adversaries going back the longest time. All right, Captain America has recently killed Red Skull. This is how he took control of Hydra. So these two characters are intrinsically linked. Alana, what are we looking at here? We've been speculating about this for weeks. What you got for us?
Let me see. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say
now.
this. I will tell you, I think we find out pretty definitively by issue 8.
Yeah.
Which is very soon. Like, either next week or the week after.
It's right around the corner. issue 7, we also get some good stuff.
Yes.
So we'll revisit that.
Yeah.
Right now, Cap is in the clutches of the Red Skull. It's you know, classic.
Yeah. And I think what I've said before is if some of the figures he's running into seem familiar, you should go with that feeling and see what's going on there.
All right. You give us
so
a
yeah.
lot more than other guests. I'm picking up this is going to be a great show.
So let's get to the meat of the issue. All right, everyone's posted up in Nevada. You have everybody in one place. Horrible tactical decision because when Captain America comes, he brings.
They thought they were really well hidden.
Yeah.
To be fair.
So cute.
They again. So Hawkeye has been leading the defense. You know, you put an archer in charge of stuff, and so they've set up a whole bunch of number of defenses, but they are not defensible against one major thing, and that is the reanimated Hulk.
Yeah.
We have Thor, who is again working for the baddies. They make some valid points with regards to the hammer and whatnot, and so he is part of this assault. Scarlet Witch is part of this assault. She's been tricked. The Vision's part of this assault, but it's not until the brought back from the dead apparently Hulk is dropped on this facility that we actually see this go on.
Yeah.
Alana, what are we looking at?
Well, this was a while back, but we actually did set this up in Uncanny Avengers, which is at the end of the arc there where the Hand resurrects Hulk briefly. They give the body back to Captain America because they thought that would be a really good idea and would make sense. You know, from their perspective, yeah, of course, like give Cap the dead Avenger body.
Why not?
But then that didn't work out so good for them because he just kind of kept that in his back pocket until he was like, oh yeah, I've got this guy like in cold storage downstairs.
Chekhov's Hulk. If you see a Hulk in Act 1, you have to use the Hulk by Act 3. It's just classic storytelling.
So in this issue, you see that come to fruition, and he temporarily resurrects Hulk. So he near the end of this, you see him pass out again, and he's out.
He's out.
And still dead. Like he basically just came back long enough to wreak horrible havoc and then just be like, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So basically it's the one thing they weren't counting on because, he was very dead. And it comes back for Hawkeye in a big way, considering Hawkeye's the one who shot him in the head.
This is just because how these folks are dealing with. Again, they've been really stabbed in the back by the person that they held to be an icon. They are already reeling emotionally from this. And one thing that I really loved in this issue is, like, you have Hawkeye, he's been an Avenger since, like, 62, right? He's been an Avenger way longer than any of us have been alive.
Yeah.
He's a core member of this team. And him seeing the Hulk, he freezes up. He loses sight of it. And it's not until, again, you see this other character, The Thing, who's one of the oldest characters of the Marvel Universe, come in. And then that's what gets everybody going again. And now it turns very quickly into a rout. It turns very quickly into a retreat. It turns into an evacuation. And we really start to see some of the true colors of these characters. We see, again, you have Cap and Tony, once again going head-to-head.
Yeah.
And then most importantly, you have a real interesting turn from Thor. You have, just again, a whole lot of characters really showing what they're made of, And you Rothman, you had a lot of thoughts on this Thor moment.
The Thor moment? Yeah. Well, I think to what you said, but piggybacking on what you said, it was funny when this whole series was announced. It was kept being plugged in that this is going to affect every character in the Marvel Universe across the board, and it really has. Like, I mean, quite often that never comes to fruition, but you see like these existential moments through every character, from Ant-Man to Thor and it's just fascinating to see what's going on in their head, and also to see what's going to come. But it was very, the Thor moment was very great to see the tide turning a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Every time the tide turns in the positive way, they
something else happens.
2 steps backwards, basically. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a little bit of a, like, Nick had to convince us a little bit on the Odinson thing, like the fact that he would side with Cap, but like when you spell it out in terms of he doesn't understand Earth politics. He knows this guy's his buddy, and he knows this guy can still lift the hammer. So, like, who are you going to side with if you're an Asgardian dude who has no context for anything that's happening?
He lives in a monarchy. This is normal for him.
Yeah, he's like this seems fine. Like, what's the issue? And so I think far from him siding with Hydra necessarily, he barely knows what Hydra is. Yeah. Like, he's just kind of like, this guy's my friend. I guess I'm on his side.
It's like an anthill to him. Like, oh, this is Hydra thing, whatever.
Yeah, this little Hydra dust up over here.
Are we going to find out?
Margie, I wanted to bring you in on this issue real quick. What are your thoughts on what's been going on this one so far?
Well, I was going to tell you, you have to know the inside perspective of all those Marvel summits with Nick, like, recruiting.
Oh, please.
For his, like, team of bad guys. Like, and he would bring up these names, and everyone would go, "No, what? No, what are you saying?" And then by the end of the day, he would have talked everyone into it. So he's diabolical. He's a little bit of a thing. But Nick also he's been on the Nick Spencer hotline where I'm like, I'm texting him. I'm like, Nick, when did this come out? Like, are they learning this from me or you? And he's like, hold on. All right, this is the deal. He has pretty much, he's had a lot of, he's been good-natured about it, but I can't imagine that he's even had time to brush his teeth in about 2 years.
Probably not. Probably not. I don't think so.
I would love to know from both.
Checked or anything. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. No,
but look, I was super impressed. I mean, Carol's been in space. Carol's been, in a full combat war situation against the Chitauri. It's great to remember she's the captain also. And she's been really in a high action military, assault. And it's been amazing to get to write that for her as a woman and as like a butt kicker, and as a hero. It's been cool. So
I wanted to get to this actually. Yeah. Again, you've been writing this integral part of what's going on in this story. It's again, this is like 1/3 of the fronts. She's holding the fort against these Chitauri invaders. She's built this fantastic team, a whole bunch of rookies coming in to help them out. What's it been like, kind of playing this huge role in this story?
Oh, it's been great. Sometimes the thing with a crossover event, as everyone knows, is it's not that you lose control of your character, but you're not the one making the sort of big picture. You agree to them, but you're not the one planning the big picture plot developments. So you have to have a lot of faith in the guys you're working with. And this was one that was so right for Carol. I never had like a second of worry about it. And it was just like, honestly, it was like the perfect showcase for her Air Force background. And really, you need like a global full-scale war to really do that. And so you kind of need an event to really showcase, what Carol can do. So that was really a cool one, especially because, she has always had she's had a trickier and more controversial turn on the last crossover. So this was like fun to like have a thing that was so like you could all agree was straight up Carol, heroics.
Not that she needed redemption, because again, she made a lot of valid points last time around, but this is very much bring everybody together. It's a fascinating survival horror story in a lot of ways. Again, it's got more DNA of Battlestar Galactica in it than a lot of what you'd expect from the Avengers kind of thing. It's they're stranded in space. It's them against the whole world. It's so fascinating seeing her build and maintain this team, especially contrasting with what's going on Earth. Like you see these kind of folks breaking up, but she's holding her people together against all odds.
Well, she's got some team cadets up there with her, too, so she has sort of the innocence at war, which has been an interesting thing to do. But it was really fun at Comic-Con to see the sort of rise of Carol and all the girls that were so excited and the readers, and that's always when I grab all the little girls and say, no sidekicks, just butt kicks. Go kick some butt. And they're like, yeah. So Carol was having a high moment last weekend. It was really excellent.
I'd love to know from both of you, because I can imagine being at those summits, and Tom, Nick, and Axel are telling you this overarching thing. Was there ever, from what we've seen so far, like a selling point that really sold you on all these different turns? Was there like one moment where they're explaining the broad strokes of the story, and you were like, okay, your first reaction is like, whoa, but then there's something that pulls you in?
For me, the thing that made it click for me was when, he presented this idea, and there was resistance from our end, because Cap is one of our main dudes, and he's Cap. But the way he put it to us was, Red Skull has turned him Hydra, but the same way Cap feels about America is how he feels about Hydra. He's not loyal to the institution, he is loyal to the ideals. Yeah. And the idea that his greatest strength in that regard would also be like his greatest weapon as an agent of Hydra. I was like, oh, okay, I see how that's interesting.
Is, yeah.
Yeah, and again, that backfires horribly on the Red Skull, who was like, oh, this is going to be so fun. Cap is Hydra, and then it's like, oh no, Cap is Hydra.
There are no negative consequences to this action.
No, it'll be totally fine. But the core problem that is facing, like, the universe is that Cap has remained so, like, he has remained true to the things that make him Cap, but for the other side, which is a genuinely horrifying combination. So
now we have a whole nother issue to get to this, so we just want to go through a few more things. We have that tumultuous fight between Cap and Tony. There's a ton of fantastic iconography in that from, again, the Civil War. These are two characters with a ton of history. I thought I saw a shout out of Avengers fighting the Hulk. I don't know if that was a reference to.
Yeah, it might have been. I'm not sure.
It's a deep cut, but either way, it's just like it's a really iconic set of images. And then you see one of the most fascinating things happen. Elisa, Madam Hydra, pulls. So Tony decides to go supernova in a lot of ways, and he's just going to take everyone around him, specifically Cap, out. Madam Hydra jumps in, teleports Captain America out of there, and gives her own life in order to save this guy. And this is. We are entering issue 7, which I think is by far the darkest book that I've read in a long time.
Yeah, I think so.
You see again a real mother figure, like a real important person in this Cap Hydra's life, just kind of giving up herself, and then you have the supernova moment. So it's a heck of a way to end a book. I'll give you guys.
Yeah.
I want to move now on to issue 7 because again we are now in one of the darker periods. We cut to Alpha Flight, we cut to Carol in space, and it is looking dark as dark as ever in a lot of ways. We cut to New York. It's looking once again dark as ever.
Literally.
Yeah, because the dark force dimension and stuff. And then we go back to the Red Skull, and we're going to see in this issue a real the motivation, it seems, the hope really kind of comes from this Dream Cap episode. And you were talking about that earlier. But we get back to Cap and Red Skull. Cap eventually breaks loose and whatnot. So it's just a real great moment for them. But now, we got to talk about what these champions are doing. For the past several weeks, we've been talking about these characters. These are the youngest heroes in the Marvel Universe. They are, a lot of times, either different generations of heroes or there's folks with a legacy. And this is one of their first big dust-ups.
Yeah.
Like, we saw a few of them in Civil War. We saw kind of this Greek chorus of Miles and a few of the other ones. And it was just, this one is their first real time, because they're planning to kill Captain America, which is not what heroes do ostensibly. Alana, you've been, again, you cover Champions, you cover this book.
Yeah.
What's going on with these kids, and what's going on with Miles Morales?
So they've kind of had, like, all of these kids have had kind of a trial by fire, in that the first events that they've been a part of have both been really, like not fun alien invasions, not, like, quirky, like, entertaining things. Like, they really have been through the ringer very early between Civil War II and Secret Empire, like, especially Secret Empire, because they're suddenly in a war zone in which, they're on the wrong side. Not ideologically, but in terms of, any chance of victory. Like, so I think it's kind of, beaten them into being possibly a little more pragmatic even than their elders are. And that conflicts with their sense of idealism, where they don't want to be the old guard. They don't want to use the same methods. They don't want to kill. They spell that out very clearly in the first issue of Champions, that this is not a thing they do. Like, but they're forced in this instance. They saw the wreckage of Vegas, which we'll see, I think, in a Champions issue that's either coming out or out already, that they helped with the cleanup, which was pretty traumatic for them after Vegas was destroyed. And I think it's very hard for them to see that and hold on to the kind of abstract idea of, like, they need to be above it all, because they're like, we need to do something now or more people are going to get hurt. So that's why they jump on the Black Widow train. That's why they're kind of like, teach us, even if they're not sure they're going to go all the way.
We'll get back to that in a bit, but Margie, I want to go to you real quick, because this issue we see really Captain Marvel experience a ton of guilt over what she said to do. Again, the Quasar incident was huge for her. She's a real demonstrated leader in this. Can you tell us what's going on with Captain Marvel in again, these main series of Secret Empire?
Well, again, she is a military hero, so she's always going to do what she has to do, and she's as familiar with the ultimate sacrifice as anyone. But I think it's really gripping to have to see that and watch those sacrifices happen. I think it's also killing her to not be, to have not been on Earth where she can really make a difference. And I think she's worried about what will there even be to go back to. So, I mean, it's pretty dark, but it's not the sort of existential crisis that she often has about, am I doing the right thing? Though she feels guilty, there's such a sort of, she has this defender of the world, military, like, I have to do what I have to do, toughness. So I think she feels pretty confident about that. She's just sort of worried about all of humanity at this point, and can she get back to helping them?
Because that's what she's been trying to do in these books for weeks now. She's been trying to do anything. They tried to call in Galactus. They called in the Guardians. They've really done anything scientifically that they can attempt to do, and it just seems like, again, this is a real issue where folks are kind of running out of hope.
Yeah, this really is. This is, they always call it in books the point of no return, but that's where she is. It's the point of no return. Like, this is the darkest hour. And those are the times that, form you. And that's when you really see, that's when you see what you're made of and what the people around you are made of. That's why the arc is called Band of Sisters. It's really like Carol's, like, she's seeing her troop through the winter. Like, this is it. So it's interesting. It's been really cool to work on.
Yeah. And there's so many parallels and similarities between what Captain Marvel's going through, the people that are on her side, and also Black Widow too. They both really want to protect their group.
Yeah.
They're in something that is not ideal, but they know they have to utilize these key players. But at the same time, there was such a feeling of, I mean, we'll get this later, but Black Widow locks up Miles Morales, so he's not involved in this thing. And it was just, that really resonated with me, watching it and seeing, this leadership and this ability to kind of still job to get done, but they still have such a compassion for the people that are alongside them.
What do you say we get to that right now?
Right.
So Widow locks up Miles Morales, so he
she
doesn't
does.
kill Captain America as he's prophesied to. Okay, so this is a character who, she knows what this kid sees. She knows what this will do to this kid. She has been there in so many different ways and so many different times over time. She's seen this before, so she does what she can to try to lock him up. Obviously, Spider-Man are very intrinsically difficult to keep in a cage. But we see some really fascinating things happen. She goes to try to snipe Captain America at this major speech. She gets tackled by the Punisher. Because, again, you have these two characters who really deal in the darker side of things, kind of coming to a head. Punisher, idolizes Cap, has been recruited by Cap and has been tracking these folks for ages. You have the beautiful set of panels. Who does the art on this issue?
That is Andrea Sorrentino, and he's a mad genius. This was all him. This isn't. It's not like in the script Nick was like, "Hey, do a cool mosaic panel thing." Like, Sorrentino just does that. That's how his brain works.
It's
he's
amazing.
brilliant.
It is gorgeous.
There was one really cool thing before we move on, the Punisher aspect. He does idolize Cap, but also, again, all these characters are so rich in the storyline, but I think we had mentioned this before in the past, but he almost kind of explains, she asks him what Cap promised him. Yeah. And it's essentially that Cap is just basically finally coming down to his level. That power and authority and, the ends justify the means are worth it. And that was really, it was a small little line, but that was so cool to see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think I think with Punisher and with a lot of characters here, Nick has done a really good job of building, how could they do anything other than what they did? How could, Punisher not want to do, go with Cap when Cap is finally sanctioning his terrible actions? Of course he does.
Yeah, Margie, what you got on that? Again, really interesting turn for the Punisher.
No, what I was going to say was that Nick is really, he's really good with character motivation, and he becomes transparent and just goes into the character and sees the sort of logic sequence of what makes his character tick. And that's sometimes, I think, why he reads as so controversial, because he's really not thinking about anything except for this character has this logic, this character has this logic. And they're that's sort of that's a Bendis thing too, where you're so familiar with all the characters of the Marvel Universe that you really can move around kind of in and out of heads, which, as the new kid in that summit room, I'm always just dazzled by the sort of depth of knowledge that all of my brothers have in there. So it's been a real lesson to watch. No matter what you think about it, he has that facility that a lot of people don't have.
Because when it works, you know? We look in this issue, and one of the core relationships that have been teased for a year, a whole year, okay, is this relationship between Miles Morales and Captain America. Yeah. It's one of idealization. It's one of, there's an interruption in the relationship when Ulysses, the fellow from last year, check back, where he predicts that he murders Captain America on the Capitol steps. It's just devastating to this kid, you know? And now it's finally paying off. Yeah. It shocks me, this level of detail. This has been a year more in the making, especially with what Spencer's been doing with Cap all this time. Yeah. And it's crazy. And so you just have this scene where, without any of this emotion involved, it's just a guy punching an elderly gentleman. But like now, there's just a ton, like some punk kid from Queens punching an elderly gentleman. That's all that you would see. But no, it really pays off because man, this guy was his hero, and you just see so much built up in this, and it's a really impressive. It's very artistic. It's
yeah,
good.
and when when we have that moment in Civil War II, we knew it would pay off eventually in Secret Empire, but the idea that it was built out of Miles just saw what happened to Black Widow, and that's what is driving him here. Like that was all stuff that we built in for this event, that, extrapolating out from that moment, like what would push him this far? Like what would bring him to this moment? Because, otherwise it's like, why on earth would Miles ever kill, like, Cap? That doesn't make sense.
And then you have the stand up and cheer moment of, I'm not a killer.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's again, you have to know the character well enough to know when they would go to that extra level and just start beating the crap out of Cap, and when they would stop. And that's really interesting how that level of restraints come out. And
it was like his own Captain America moment.
Yeah,
where he was like, I'm not going by my, it was almost like a parallel or irony in this book. Like he's not going to go against his ideals. Interesting
Though
too.
it's worth noting too, this is probably the only time Ulysses was wrong, and you might find out more about that in Cap 25 if you pick it up.
I don't know anything about predictions going wrong. Margie, yes, I wanted to bring you on this.
No, I have to shout out because I think Miles Morales is one of, if not the most interesting character of the moment in what Marvel has going on, and I see that. I also see just pitch for the authors. Jason Reynolds has a book adaptation, Miles Morales, out this I think this week or next week, and I have never seen such a reaction to that character and the book he did, and sort of like the comics. Like I see a lot of the, you look at Kamala Khan and Miles Morales, and you see two of the most interesting kind of late-breaking characters in the Marvel Universe, which is the amazing thing about Marvel, is when the legacy characters are as interesting as sort of the classics. And I mean, that's about the depth of bench of like all the creators they have working there. It's amazing.
It's really impressive. I'm a huge fan of Kamala Khan. If you're not following her, she is in the swamps of Jersey, liberating Inhumans. Fascinating story. So we want to get to the end of this issue. Before we get too far into this and into the previews that we have forthcoming on this, we do need to disclose that both Marvel Entertainment and ABC News are part of the Walt Disney Company. So in the interest of full disclosure, there you go. We have the end of this issue, which is just a totally great moment. You see both Captain America in the dreamscape, whatever you want to call that fella. He is getting away from Red Skull. He's getting that moment of hope. He's getting that moment running free. And then you see that parallel in the real world. So again, here's a really great set of panels. The color on this is gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, Rod Rice is the artist on these pages, and I believe his background is he was a colorist originally. So he fully paints these pages, and he's really been doing some fun experimentation with even his line work. Like in the issue before this, there's a really great panel where it's like flat red, and then there's like a really sketchy like Cap outline, and he's just been phenomenal. Like he's a really, really good artist, and I hope we'll be able to see him doing much more after this event.
Yeah, because then you have this like just gorgeous stuff. Again, you have the Falcon, you have Sam Wilson raising the shield, and we have been talking about whether it's a ghost, whether it's a spirit, but like you just kind of see both these characters, the spirit of Captain America as well as Sam Wilson, just kind of come together, and like this is what they need in that desert right now. They've just got nuked, they've routed, and this is just a real stunning image to behold.
Yeah, we're excited to have Cap be the one to kind of rally the troops against other Cap, because a lot of this event, and even in the discussions of it leading up to it, we knew we needed to bring Steve back. We knew we didn't want to let go of Sam yet, and we really wanted to find a way to put Sam at the forefront, and like he is Captain America, and give him that moment where he defines what being Captain America is for him. And I think through this event, like very slowly over the course of the series before this and leading into this event and coming out of this event, like we'll see that he is just as valid in this position as Steve Rogers, and if anything, he's the guy you want with the shield while all this is going on.
You have brought some previews with you as well, so I want to get those up on screen again. These are exclusive previews from issue number 8, which you have described as a doozy. So I'm going to ask you to walk us through some of these when we do get them queued up. But again, we have been leading up to this for a while. This is again Sam Wilson, Captain America. He's in New York City in the Dark Force dimension. He's in space, the previously impenetrable shield. It is impressive. It is just a real gorgeous stand-up and cheer moment, and you have again this character reaching out and doing what Cap's always done, which is aspires. Tell us about what's going on this panel. How is he doing this?
Yeah, without getting into too many specifics, this is the big rallying the troops moment.
Yeah.
Like, this is issue 8 is the start of the, like, this is their last push. This is their last shot. Like, they just lost the big attempt at Cap's life. Like, they're down in the dumps, and now it's time to rally and, like, give it one last huge push and start getting things done, because they've been down for a very long time, and Cap's had, like, Steve has had nothing but wins, and Sam is going to be the one that kind of pulls everyone together and is like, we are doing this and we're doing it now. So that is what you are seeing here.
So Margie, in addition to just a horrible part of Manhattan called Times Square, we are seeing this message being broadcast.
Yeah, why is anyone
to
hanging out
space.
there in the dark?
Costumed heroes everywhere. So Margie, what is this message going to do for the morale up on Alpha Flight Station?
Well, there is, they've got to end it. Like they have to do, they have to go beyond what they've even thought they could sacrifice or do. So it's going to end in a big way for them, and it will change, the whole course of Carol's life right now. So it's a big finish for those guys. I can't actually say pretty much anything, as is usually the case, but I was really happy with the whole arc, and especially the way it goes out. It's nuts.
Well, the book is Captain Marvel, and again, this is the second time we've had you on. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a ton of fun, and you can check out that at your local comic book shop. Alana, what are you working on these days?
A bunch of stuff. All the Avengers
everything.
books. Champions, Unstoppable Wasp, which is my baby. Ultimates, Captain America, both of them.
Yeah.
Iron Man, both of them. So
Wow. A little bit.
yeah. So quite a few, and I'm working on the upcoming Legacy one shot as well. A couple of the Generations books. So yeah, a nice spread of things where I get to deal with a lot of characters, which is always fun.
I will have to check out Unstoppable Wasp. That sounds like fun.
it's the
And
best.
Mike Rothman, ABC News, thank you so much. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. We really appreciate you tuning in. We will see you coming up for issue number 8. Tune in next week for Inside Marvel, Darth Vader. Thank you for watching.